Hello and thank you for joining us for the next in our series Let's Talk, and today the focus is mobile intelligence, and here to tell us all about that is Henry Howe. You are the Head of Product in the Mobile Intelligence Division. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us today. Looking forward to our discussion.
So what is mobile intelligence then? Tell us about that.
So in a nutshell, mobile intelligence is really about us being able to work with mobile operators in the UK. If you think about how your phone is now the most prominent piece of equipment that you have, it's real time. So everything you do is on your phone. And the way that we like to look at it is to say, well, what are the mobile operators? What information do they have access to? And being able to provide certain elements of the data about your phone to companies such as financial institutions, banks, to be able to look at that information in real time to make a decision. So as a consumer, they can reduce the risk and instances of fraud that you would potentially suffer from.
So let's talk about the scale of this first of all. What does this look like?
Well, we know that fraud on a global scale affects a huge number of people. And if we look at the particular elements we're talking about this afternoon, we know that the authorised push payment fraud in the UK is alone worth £450 million.
That's staggering.
It's a huge issue. And roughly, you look at the amount of instances reported last year, it's roughly 250,000 people individually were affected by the fraud that took place, as well as if you think about the elements of fraud that weren't reported, that number could increase much further from there.
So can you tell us then about some of JT's solutions to this? And you've got something called Scam Signals. So how does that work?
Well, with the mobile operator data points we've worked with over the years, there's been a number of different use cases where they've fitted. So for example, for SIM swap, we talk about being able to protect individuals from a risk of account takeover. Scam Signal is the next evolution of that service, whereby as a consumer, I would hopefully not be coerced into making a fraudulent payment over the phone through impersonation fraud or other. So for JT to work with mobile operators, it means that we can provide a number of services for the banks in real time, whereby if a customer is making potentially what they recognise as a fraudulent transaction in real time, they can call JT through one of our web services, one of the APIs that we have, and determine the status of that person. The bank will then use that intelligence. We know from other information that's provided that's potentially fraudulent, so they can stop that transaction. So the benefit for me as a consumer is that reduces my risk of suffering authorised push payment fraud, because the banks have got a number of solutions from us in place to be able to stop that happening.
It's vital really for people, and so many people are falling victim to this, which you might think is surprising given the amount of awareness that there is now. So why do you think that this type of fraud is growing, Henry?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think the first is obviously everyone is now, as silly as it sounds, online in some shape or form. And the root cause of a lot of this is social engineering, whereby to break that down, it just means that because you've got much more of an online presence individually, there's much more information about you online. Therefore, people who are operating in the dark corners of the web can go through, they can procure that information about you, and it kind of moves from it's not really personal, but they've just found somebody online with all their details exposed, and they're able to kind of capitalise that. And you've got large fraud rings who kind of specialise in procuring information about individuals. And as they do so, that means that the opportunities for the people online increase in terms of risk, in terms of the amount of money that can be fraudulently captured by these crime rings, and it just makes it easier to run that process through. Henry,
who's using the solution? You mentioned banks earlier, but who's really using this, and what are the results that you're seeing?
In short, everybody, but the primary focus for us is working with financial services. I think we boil it down, and everyone is transacting in some shape or form with their bank. So that's the source of the funds. So you kind of want to start there and work backwards. So we work with a number of channel partners or sort of aggregators that provide a number of other services to the banks, which we feed into. So those partners will have typically large fraud and risk models where they're engaging with those customers on an everyday basis. But our services feed into those risk models, and that's where they're able to then take that information from us in real time again and make a decision to protect the banks, reduce their risk, improve their brand quality, and help the consumers ultimately in the long run. So our partners have reported an increase in 30% scam detection rates, a 55% reduction in false positives, and a 44% reduction, most importantly, in overall fraud.
And something, of course, that's so important to people is client confidentiality, customer confidentiality. They want to know that that is in place. That's clearly important to you at JT. So can you tell us some examples of how you really deliver on that?
So everything is built with a privacy first framework that we include. All of the opportunities that we have with channel partners and banks are approved with the mobile operators in turn. So they have a clear view about which banks are engaging in which services and approving the acceptance of users to give their consent to be able to then benefit from those services ultimately online.
So can you tell us about the partnerships that you have in place to be able to deliver this effectively?
First and foremost, we partner with the UK mobile operators to be able to provide this service. Ultimately, it's their data that we use to be able to onward provide this to our customers. So if you take the mobile operators, we work very closely with them and UK Finance, for example, who are an industry body that represent all of the financial services in the UK. And also the GSMA, who are the Global Mobile Association, who effectively bring those two worlds together. So by partnering with those, you've got all the expertise, you've got the data, and then it comes down to us to provide that onward to our customers, as well as being able to provide technical innovation services around that. So not just the data, but also the whole kind of product wrap to be able to go forward and provide that into the marketplace. So in terms of the primary partnership we have with the services, we work with a partner called FICO, who provide a number of services into the UK banking sector as well as globally, which is where we've had the first instances of the product go live with. So very much in partnership, we're able to kind of consult with them at each stage of the journey. And from where the services we have now with them, where they've come from, there's been many, many iterations of that, including things along the lines of more coverage into the market, increasing the amount of users we could provide to them, as well as being able to work hand in hand to understand what those kind of results we're seeing are, and understand, okay, are we providing the right services in the right channels for them to kind of capitalise on protecting their ultimate end customers from there.
And can you tell us then about the future plans for Scam Signal? Because I can only imagine that you are having to continue to develop and change and move, because fraudsters are getting smarter all the time in what they're doing.
So in terms of what future plans, we know what we're seeing in terms of the results coming back through now. There's additional data points that we think we can include in partnership with the mobile operators to provide even more protection for consumers in the UK. Obviously, we're talking about it now, so it's kind of out in the mainstream, so people can adapt their fraud methodologies to suit what's going on there. But it's always trying to stay one step ahead. And it's working very closely with the banks, with the partners, with the operators to feed back that constant loop about this is what we're seeing, this is the way we're going with it. And we've got a handful of other data attributes which we want to include over the course of the coming months in that provider platform for them to be able to work with further.
This is a competitive market. There are other providers in this space, so why JT?
It's a good question to have. There's been a lot of changes in the market, but we feel as we've been in this space for a number of years now, we've been able to evolve with the technology. So what started off as being a mobile network operator and being able to capitalise on the technology we had available, the operators we work with have seen the value in this industry. So they've been able to upgrade their services, we've been able to follow them, we've been able to guide and consult with them on those developments. So as I say, we have been in the space a long time, and I think there's that sort of trusted element whereby we've been able to support customers over a number of years now. We've got a frequency of services that are being used, as well as being able to demonstrate levels of innovation and also being able to show the worth and actually have the effective end results to be used by banks and customers alike.
You must have seen such change over the last number of years, and indeed the way that the fraudsters are working. So what are the future plans for Scam Signal to be able to keep up with these developments?
The product itself is still relatively new. We've had it in market now for roughly about a year and a half, and we've seen already we're finding different ways of working with the product. So I think for us it's about being able to work with our partners by name of being the banks, by being the operators and the GSMA as well. And evolve that to be able to greater capabilities in terms of which network attributes are available, being able to find out different ways of being able to plug it into different use cases in the market, as well as taking the feedback from clients and capitalising on that to derive different elements of technology from there.
No doubt there are people watching this thinking, right, I need to get this sorted out. What should they do next?
They can contact us first and foremost via our mobile intelligence page on LinkedIn. Also, with a number of the team who operate in our global marketplaces will be happy to take a call or email to provide more information on the services.
Oh, Henry, thank you so much, and really great insights today into mobile intelligence.